and then there's a controversy in your party, something happens about primaries, you are not happy, and then you don't come to the floor of the House to raise the issue. They are filing for nominations to contest the next election, and then you go and file to contest as an independent candidate in the next election, so that when you win in the next election, you may come back to Parliament as an independent member of Parliament. In that instance, so far as the MP has not come to Parliament to announce that he is seeking to cross carpet or he is seeking to remain in Parliament as an independent member of Parliament, the NPP as a political party has no constitutional right or power to ask for his withdrawal from Parliament. He is entitled to come and sit in Parliament and participate and debate until the end of his tenure of office as a member of Parliament. And NPP has no power whatsoever to withdraw him from Parliament. So I don't think that it is constitutionally tenable for them to be able to do what they are seeking to do.
Right, so that's the position there. Together with my guests this morning, we'll be delving into these issues. You can be part of that conversation. You can send us a message on any of our social media platforms with a hashtag The Big Issue, or send us a WhatsApp message on 0549 998 6996. And we'll be glad to share your views. I'm beginning the conversation now. With me in the studio is the Honorable George Loh, former MP for North Dai. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show with us.
Good to see you.
Well, later we'll be joined by Seth Kwame Champon, the Mpaeso MP, and also Yaw Oppong, private legal practitioner, will be joining us via Zoom. Okay, I understand Yaw Oppong is on. Lawyer, good morning. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Let me start with you before I come to my guests in the studio. Talking about the issue of the Fomena MP, give me your initial comments on the move by the NPP.
Thank you very much. I've had the opportunity to express my opinion on this matter. And obviously, one is looking at the Constitution, and in particular, Article 97. Now, 97 is on dissolution of Parliament and how members of Parliament cease to be such members. Now, we all know that Parliament, the life of Parliament is 4 years, and therefore, whatever must happen in this Parliament, apart from the laws they make and so on, are not binding on future Parliament. And so if we go back to the remedies that are contained in 97, I call it remedy because these are in direct answer to some questions that were being asked in the previous 1979 Constitution, where quite a number of MPs could move from one part of the floor, that is the political party that sponsored them to go to Parliament, to another, and which was also a big matter that adversely affected the due administration of the state as far as the work of Parliament was concerned. So 97 is one of the provisions that were brought in this current Constitution to ensure that such situations that confronted us under the Third Republic, as far as representation of members of Parliament was concerned at that time, will be taken care of, and as much as possible, the issue of crossing carpets will be dealt with. And so 97, one says, should I go on?
Yes, go ahead.
A member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament. The specific one here is G. If he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to Parliament to join another party, or seeks to remain in Parliament as an independent member, it would appear to me that when it comes to the first part, where a member of parliament who was elected on the ticket of a political party decides to join another political party, I think that situation is slightly different from where he decides to be independent in parliament, as the constitution puts it. So that if a member of parliament today declares that I am no more a member of, let's say, CPP, I am today a member of GUN, then in my view, that situation will call for his seat being vacant. On the other hand, where he decides to be a member of parliament in the or on the independent side, then the situation that we have now will not arise, because the constitution is clear. It says, or seeks to remain in parliament as an independent member. In my view, if all the facts about the Former MP situation are told, and they are what we have heard, then I think the decision may be subject to serious contestation. Because then the simple question that needs to be answered is, has he declared that he is now an independent candidate in parliament?
Okay.
I have not heard that fact. Neither have we heard that he has said that he has left the MPP party and now he is a member of a different or another political party. And so, in my own view, I think the decision may have to be looked at again, however embarrassing it may be to the decision makers, so that once he has not declared, at least not openly, that he is now an independent candidate in this parliament, then the decision is a bit challenged, in my view.
The MPP says that once you decide to contest as an independent candidate, according to their constitution, you forfeit your membership of their party. And so to them, the Former MP is no longer a member of their party, hence that petition to the Speaker.
If that were the case, I think that they could have just written to maybe the head of their representative, maybe the majority leader, and for the gentleman not to be made to appear before Parliament anymore on their side. But the point really is that once the decision is not being, the final decision rests with Parliament, it means that it is not an automatic matter as it may be, or is being seen to be. So, strictly speaking, I think that the mere fact that in this situation, and I don't know whether he has been duly given opportunity to be heard and a decision has been made in that regard, but even if that is the case, my understanding, and of course everybody is entitled to their own understanding of this matter, my understanding is that, and without sounding repetitive, the decision stands to be challenged and contested in the sense that the gentleman has neither proclaimed publicly that he has now joined another political party, nor has he said that he is now in parliament as an independent candidate or independent parliamentary representative. And we know that the constitution is also clear that the policies or the constitutions of the various political parties and all institutions must be consistent with the constitution. And the constitution, we know, has the letter or the text and equally the spirit. And therefore, it is important that we also recognize that certain persons in the constituency, including those who were not members of the NPP, voted for this gentleman to become their MP. And therefore, I think with this in mind, the decision will have to be looked at again as to whether or not the decision that has been taken indeed is a reflection of the entire people who voted for this gentleman to become the MP. Once he has not clearly declared that he has left the NPP party to join another political party, the constitution was clear. It didn't even say merely ceasing to be a member of the political party. It says, and join another political party, or decides to remain in this parliament as an independent candidate. The facts relating to this letter requirements, which or burden which has to be discharged, have not been clearly articulated, and I think they don't exist. So in a nutshell, I think that until he decides that he is now an independent member of parliament in this parliament, the decision is highly challenged.
Let me get to my studio guest now, Honorable George Loh.
Once again, good morning. Interesting as I listen to the various interpretations put across by my colleague lawyers. So far, I think it's all lawyers that have spoken. It's not a simple matter. If it were, I'm sure that by now, finality would have been brought to the matter. And I'm sure that by now, Mr. Speaker would not have any difficulty at all in declaring the seat vacant or otherwise. But it's a very exciting development in our political space. These things need to keep occurring so that we would tighten all the loose ends that our constitution has not been able to do. But I start from where generally my good friend Mr. Oppong left off. You see, first and foremost, the NPP and by extension all political parties must come to terms with the fact that our party constitutions are subject to the Constitution of Ghana.
Okay.
That is why they say yours must be consistent. They didn't say the constitution should be consistent to your party's constitution. They said our party constitutions must not be inconsistent with the Constitution of Ghana, which is really the grand norm, what we call the grand norm. It's supposed to have the totality of all the things. The second question I want to ask is, in drafting the Constitution the way it did, what was the intention of the framers of the Constitution? You know, as somebody who has been involved in lawmaking for a long time, that is always my first question when I take any bill, any act of Parliament. I said, why would we do that? And I think that the various speakers had, in one way or the other, touched, but I think that Mr. Oppong touched. You see, in the past, you could wake up in the morning, sit with the CPP, have a cup of tea, and somebody whispers something nice to your ears. You wake up and you start waving. That, oh, CPP, I'm going to cross the aisle and go to the other side. And you become maybe an MPP or whatever P at the time member. And that is it. So they realized that, look, this was very destructive. This was very, it wasn't good for our democracy. So the framers of the Fourth Republican Constitution decided that, look, this thing must stop somewhere. But they were very careful in their choice of words. First, they say that resign. And by that resignation, they are specific with their choice of words. So they say what? A letter under your hand. They didn't say a letter under any other person's hand or under your party's general secretary's hand to come and say that I no longer belong to them. I'm resigning from Parliament or I'm leaving Parliament. He said a letter written by you, so voluntary. You have written that, look, I'm fed up with this side of the house. I don't want to belong anymore, or I don't want to belong to that party anymore. And therefore, I am checking out of Parliament. Like he said, Professor Wayoseni did that. And he had to come for re-election to be able to join the NPP that he had written to say that he was leaving the NDC to join. And he lost.
Yeah.
You understand? So clearly, it's not a simple matter of anybody deciding at the constituency that we don't like the face of this MP anymore, and therefore we are writing to Parliament to check you out. Okay. You understand? Yeah. The Parliament itself may set up a committee if you are in contempt of Parliament and go through a process and say that no, we can't admit you in our midst again, so go. So there are various processes that have been outlined in the Constitution as to how one person can go out. And like Mr. Oppong said, he says, so you can decide that now, look, me, I want to be independent. Okay? So you are seated there. But you see, let's look at the totality of what has happened in these kinds of things. Remember our current first deputy speaker. He entered Parliament as an independent candidate.
Yeah.
But whilst he remaining in parliament as an independent candidate, he filed to contest on the seat of the NPP, and subsequently came to parliament on the seat of the NPP. Did anybody remove him?
Okay.
Why? At the time, the NPP party didn't see anything wrong with the fact that he was not a member of their party. He was an independent candidate. And whilst he was still seated in parliament, and possibly many more months before what has happened in the Formina case, he filed as a member of the New Patriotic Party and came to parliament on their ticket. So you see, you can't appropriate and reprobate all the time. The reality on the ground is that, as it stands, maybe like my colleague, my junior brother Roxin said, the best forum to determine whether there is a vacancy as a result of all that is happening is the High Court.
Okay, we'll come to the legalities of it and whether the MP himself can also take the matter to court and all that. Honorable Seth Champong has joined us. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
We are talking about your colleague, the Honorable Andrew Amuako Esiama of Formina. Your party says he's no longer a member, and so the Speaker should declare his seat vacant.
Thank you very much. Let me thank your good selves and my brother George I haven't seen in a while. I think that there's always an underlying factor pursuing all stories. Taking this action because as part of the processes of getting us elected, certain initiatives kicks in. My colleague and I got sworn into Parliament in this 7th Parliament on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party by the tenets of the Constitution. We have been performing in that stead until this very day, which such decisions are emanating. Now, the processes leading to you becoming a candidate for the political party to sponsor are all grounded in law. And so that action, there are certain conditions precedent to you getting into Parliament that the party and your good selves come into an understanding on. And so you get elected and go and represent the party in that step because the Constitution have offered us that framework. Between the party and your good self are individuals falling under this Constitution. So that processes you develop must be in concert with the Constitution. So the party tells you that I'll give you the opportunity to run on my ticket. If you come on my ticket, you will be abiding by the rules I set, because the Constitution has given me that unique opportunity to take that decision, and you can go without me.
Okay. So
my colleagues have benefited from this, and we're in Parliament together. Now going forward, the party initiated the same process, the traditions again. Here, he opted out not to participate in the party's path. By so doing, the party decided to call him and find out from him. We were on this journey together. What has happened? And he says he thinks he's not ready to follow the party's path again. So there is certainly a beginning of a divorce, sort of. And so in that mediation, I'm sure where the conversations have got into, that is why the party is taking this decision at this moment, because of his response to the party then had no choice but to follow what the Constitution mandates us to do. There's always a calendar and a framework to ensure that you satisfy the Constitution responsibilities. So we've given all ourselves, the party and my colleague, this period to engage and come to a finality. Now the processes are exhausted in respect of us deciding on whether we are going together on the ticket, as the Constitution says, or you're going alone. And so my colleague has now come by firm ground that he's no more going to contest on the ticket of the political party. He's going to contest as an independent person. And so the party would have no choice but to find a replacement on his behalf, once a party has gone and by the same principle admitted a fellow, the party will not be able to maintain its whip on him, because George will tell you, in the House, we are practicing a conventional whip system, a 3-line whip system. So the party will withdraw the whip from my colleague. When the party withdraws the whip, it means that it has no relationship with the party. And mind you, that marriage ended him up in the legislature. I'm expressing my commonsensical approach to the entire conversation. This is not etched in law. I'm not a judge to interpret the Constitution. I won't do that. I will not force myself into that arena. But then with these processes, then the party would have no difficulty and cannot be faulted for the action it's embarked upon. It is the party being seen as an entity is equally a consenting adult, just as my colleague is a consenting adult. So two consenting adults go in for a marriage. At the point it comes that we have to separate and go our separate paths. Each and every person is allowed in their own strength to take a decision. So this is where I know my party is coming from.
The concerns that he raised, it started from your primaries, your parliamentary primaries, and in February, that was when the issue started. I have a letter he issued on the 17th of February talking about his withdrawal from the parliamentary primaries. And just quickly, some of the concerns he raised. He says that it is obvious that the chairman of the MPP in the Ashanti region is in bed with his constituency chairman, that's Akwesinti. And as a result, he has been subjected to series of unfair treatment, and all attempts from his office seeking redress have proved futile. And by this letter, he withdrew from the primaries. Now, he is in this parliament as an MPP MP, and he has decided to contest the next election as an independent candidate. Why won't the party wait for the parliament's session to end? It's just less than 2 months.
Same principles. I think that each and every person, when you have opted out in an arrangement, you certainly not falter your other party for any eventuality. You see, the moral decision behind it, the party on its own is decided that yes, you are no more going to go with us. But we are going to give our blessing to a different person. And so once the party has gone ahead and given its blessing to a different person, the party cannot be faulted. The party must gather all its strength and forces to be behind this person in the principle and spirit that it demonstrated in the stead of my colleague I am within the 7th Parliament. So the party has no challenges. It is just a mere misunderstanding between two parties.
But I don't think he's asking for the party to support his candidature.
No, the party is not supporting his candidature. The party is taking a decision as an independent body, devoid of that arrangement in the past. And the party is very clear in its practice and its intentions. The intention is that I have a new person who is going to bear my torch. I must give that new person all the support that I have. And this is the only way the party, these are part of the assurances the party is giving to the new person who the party is raising and marketing. So this is a pure interest matter. The party's interest first. That is what action the party has taken.
All right. Let me go to Franklin Kujo, president of Imani Africa. He's joining us via Zoom. Hello, Franklin.
Good morning, good guys on the call.
Good to have you with us. The issue of the Fomina MP, who right now the minority leader says he's limping. We do not know what's going to happen to him. But what are your observations on this particular development?
Well, apart from the internal discontent, which I'm sure led to this rather bizarre situation, first of all, it's not new. I think that, well, for me, it's a straightforward issue, really. I mean, if you belong to an association and then you think that you do not agree any longer with its objectives, and you decide to abdicate a particular position within the association, of course, then you forfeit every benefit that comes with it. Of course, you must be careful how you negotiate this, especially in an election year, where you don't want the wrangling to go on forever, so that your opponents will feed on it and then say, well, look at you, even within your own party, there are so many discontented members, to the extent that they want to spoil for a fight even to the last day of the election. Don't forget, close to 40 of these MPs were somehow forced to abdicate, more or less. So they were forced to abdicate of a sort. There was a feeling that Jubilee didn't support close to 40 of these candidates. And everybody thought somehow the House have been dissolved or solved, only for this die-hard fellow to continue in his tracks. So maybe sending the message, which I suspect the party must take into consideration, that maybe I'm the only one who has actually come out in this fashion and wants to spoil for a fight of the last drop to the last day of the elections. But this is just a warning to you that close to 39 of those other members who felt unfairly treated may be planning other things. The reason I say this is simple. Look, not too long ago, my own good friend Kojo Frimpong, who happened to, together with the musician Abo, who lost their primaries, had a gumption to set up what they call aspirants of victory. I think that was a bold step. And it was born out of some of these very internecine squabbles that we are finding within the party, which seems to have been managed. But there's this last killer who wants to continue showing his face and suggest that while all is not kosher. I think the best way to approach this maybe is to be a combination of tact, a combination of showing the law before the honorable guy, and then some level of settlement ought to be reached so that he understands that, look, his actions have repercussions on the fortunes of the party. Beyond that, it must be scientifically proven as well that, well, somehow, if he leaves or if he continues doing what he's doing, whether it will affect the party or not. And by scientific reasoning, I mean the party has got to get some independent party to conduct some level of survey, scientific survey, rigorous, to come out with what exactly the issue really is. I know there isn't much time, but I suspect they should do that for the other constituencies that they suspect some people have not been happy, and for which they may be quietly supporting other candidates. I mean, I'll hazard that they may even want to support the opposition. So these are very important dynamics that are playing out. Look, the party has done very well. I know we'll come to the case of the murdered, the slain MP, the wife being replaced. Because I can tell you that we did some what's it called? What's the word we call it? Corporate social responsibilities type of survey to look into that area. And overwhelmingly, close to 60-65% of people within Infantiman believe that the woman should replace the husband. And I think, and ours is quite scientific, by the way. And so I think the party should treat with caution what is happening at Fomena. Beyond trying to retain the seat, they shouldn't rebuff the unfortunate incident that has led to this gentleman being showed aside.
Okay.
Well, he lost the contest. That also has to be said. So these are my opening remarks. I think it has to be a combination of tact. Yeah. Sure.
All right. Honorable George Loh, you were talking about all the laws, the other laws in Ghana, being in consonance with the Constitution of Ghana, that being the superior one. But then what happens to the rules the NPP works with? For instance, John Boydu in a statement says that once you become, the very day he filed as an independent candidate, he just denounced his membership of the MPP automatically, and that's in the MPP constitution. So what happens to their rules vis-a-vis the constitution of Ghana in trying to get some discipline within the party?
Well, I have said that your rules must be consistent or must not be inconsistent with the constitution of Ghana. And you see, when we are always talking about the spirit and the letter of the constitution. It's a living document. And so you need to look at the totality of the intention of the framers of the constitution. Let me ask you a question. So you remember that in 2016, if my memory serves me right, Sam George was said to have had a problem with Honorable Etimes or something. No, not Sam George, was he? Sam George is the first time.
That's Ningo Pram.
Yes. And he was suspended by the party. It was an alleged suspension. Then Honorable Namwale, you remember, he was said to have made some statement on TV, and therefore the party was, there was a letter that came out that he said was suspended. Would that be sufficient to take him out of parliament? If, say, even the Greater Accra region, for which is a member of a party, for which he is known, says that, look, we are suspending you from the party, would that suffice for them to write to Speaker and say that once we are suspending him, for that period, he doesn't represent the people of Ladadeko, whom he was representing? So I'm saying that look at these things with the totality. And I'm saying that at all material times, what do we seek? What signal do we seek to send when we put these things in our constitution? We must understand that not only what has been written, but also what we intended to achieve. Every word that is used in the constitution, if you know the law-making process, the draftsman has been very cautious in choosing the word. That is why I said, they are saying that that resignation that is coming must come as a result of what? Written by your hand.
Yeah.
So you see, for me, my understanding will be that it is you, the member of parliament, who must have decided that I've had enough, and therefore I want to switch, or I want to go out of parliament. Of course, somebody can resign and say that I'm not coming to contest again. As for me, at the middle of it, resign. I mean, there have been things that are happening. A lot of people. There have been members who have written, even in this current parliament. There was a member who wrote a resignation letter, forwarded it somewhere, but some way, somehow, we made sure that the speaker didn't receive it. And we talked to him to come, not to do it, because of the repercussions that he has. So you see, I would have thought that, yes, the NPP wants discipline within its ranks. But you see, you put these things up and send this signal at the appropriate time. Like we are all saying, you have like a month, technically, because beyond December, Parliament really will not do any much work. The man is not saying that I don't want to be MP again. He says that, look, and even the 17th February letter you're talking about, he says that what? He will not contest the primaries. Yeah. He stopped short of saying that I no longer intend to be a member of the MPP. At nowhere in that letter did he say that I'm leaving the party.
Yeah.
So far as some of us are concerned, he is only looking at the next parliament. You understand? So if you are saying now that because he's taking an activity that will inure to his benefit in the next parliament, you are taking him out of parliament. Yes, I agree with my brother in a sense that if you talk about the nuances, the practices, conventions in parliament, the whip system operates. But there's also this thing that we must know, that when a member of parliament stands on the floor of parliament, he represents a constituency and not a party.
People.
You understand?
Yeah.
He represents a constituency. Ideally, if we are doing our work well in parliament, the constituencies are supposed to tell us what we should come and say, or which which way we should vote. In other jurisdictions, where you are able to know where your MP voted, you know, you have a right to disagree with your MP that he didn't vote according to the way you want. Yeah. So you see, there's a complex issue. It looks very simple. But you see, there are several questions that needed to be answered. If I were the MPP, and I'll give them free advice, I wouldn't have written to the speaker.
Why?
Because at the close of the day, whether we like it or not, we have a replacement. We have somebody coming to replace him after 1 month. Where we have reached in the parliamentary calendar, there is not. What if this thing had happened maybe first week when the man entered parliament? Then you can be worried about it, and then we'll have a long haul. But like I'm saying, I would have been happy if either the NPP goes to court or the Mr. Siama, they call him.
Yes.
Mr. Siama goes to court to say that my position cannot be declared because now if Mr. Speaker comes, and Mr. Siama is a lawyer, if I remember.
Yeah.
Mr. Siama is a lawyer,
He's
yes.
a lawyer.
So if Mr. Speaker comes and says, well, because I've received a letter from John Boydu, I'm declaring your seat vacant. The first thing he will do as a lawyer, which I think he will do, is to go to the High Court and put an injunction on that decision. So he sits there, and then it's going to be a long haul. Our court system. It's not something that can be resolved in 1 hour, 1 month. You understand? So at the close of the day, it's not a situation that any side can win easily.
What happens in the NDC if such a situation were to occur?
Well, you're asking me a question that is difficult to answer. But you see, also within the NDC,
are there regulations like this?
Yes. Anybody who, you see, in the NDC, anybody who does the same thing, you go independent. Particularly when you have lost primaries. You are sacked from the party.
Yeah.
And as part of our processes for primaries, we actually make you sign an undertaking that should I lose, I will not work against the party and go independent. You understand? But in this particular case, you see, the man didn't contest primaries.
Yeah.
So you see, it's a very dicey matter. The man didn't contest primaries, that he went and he lost, and then he said that I'm going against party decision. Because the primaries is by MPP party members. So if they have taken a decision and you've gone against that decision, it's a different matter. In this case, you say, I don't feel fairly treated, so I will not participate. And even in that letter, he didn't say that I will go independent.
Yeah. He said he would announce his next line of action.
Yes. So after a while, I don't even think that he announced his next he just went and took action and decided that, okay, if my people will not give me a fair, maybe the people in the area. And yesterday, there were news, your guys went to the constituency and spoke to people. And even the die-hard members there, they tell you there's a 50-50 chance. So it tells you that he has quite some support that he feels he can leverage on. His interest is representing the people of Fomena. The NPP as a candidate, they should worry about marketing that candidate so that he becomes their voice in parliament. But you see, in parliament, you sit this way or that way. Even the independents, so-called independents, you always have a side with whom you elect to sit. So that is another very interesting one. Let's assume that Mr.
Isiama.
No, not. What have I forgotten it? The lawyer. Oppong.
Okay.
Oppong's interpretation. That says that, well, he may choose to be independent. Where will he vote? Will he still sit and vote with the MPP? Or will he now say that I choose to be independent, but I want to vote with the minority in parliament? There are several dimensions to it. And that is why everybody is saying that. This is not a simplistic matter as my brother says. For him, he sees it as a simple matter. No. It's not, because you see, when you look at the legality of it, the legality is involved. And I'm happy even Obi Amwa is telling you that, Charlie, this is not one of those things that the speaker can wake up in the morning after a cup of tea and decide that, let me go and announce something. It has to be a painstaking decision, because this decision will influence a lot of people's actions and decisions in the future. So that's why I'm saying I am happy it has even come out.
It's a test on our constitution.
Yes. It's a test on our constitution, a test on our political party management and architecture. And so he's provided us an opportunity, to really find solution to one of the very topical things that continue to plague our political parties. People go independent. And I hear in Ashanti alone, there are about 9 or 10 or 15 people.
Yeah, people are, but they're still.
But they are not incumbents.
No, they are not incumbents. But I'm saying that you
Mm.
see, this independent candidate, it has its own challenges on the political parties.
Okay.
But bottom line is, you have 3 routes through which you enter into parliament. You know, or 2, basically, broadly. You either come on the vehicle of a political party, or you go in there and say, I'm independent. You understand? So these options are available. So if somebody says that I want to come in the next party, constitutionally, I don't think it's violated any law. You understand? I don't think that it's violated any law.
Okay.
By saying that next parliament, I want to come as an independent. The party is seeing it differently, saying that once you decide that you are going to go independent, it means that you have gone against our rule, our decision. What is that decision? Even though it's in their constitution, but what is that decision? I'm saying that that decision is not born out of evidence of wrongdoing, because Mr. Siama did not contest the primaries, where we say that collectively the party in the constituency has taken a decision that it is Kofi Mensah who we are sending this time and not you.
But the party has a candidate.
That is what I'm saying, that the party now has a candidate. But that candidate is a part of a different arrangement where Mr. Siama did not participate. Do you understand? If Mr. Siama had participated and a decision had been made by way of vote, and he still says that I don't agree with the vote, I'm going against the party's decision, then for me, you can even give the MPP some a little semblance of, okay, he went against the party decision.
So you don't think he has flouted any decision?
Why? What has he flouted?
Once you declare independence, they say you forfeit your membership.
So, as it stands, nobody can have an independent mind and say that, Charlie, I want for 1 or 2 or 3 reasons. I cannot change my mind about something.
Well,
but the interesting one that we are not talking about, as for me, this one crowd here is something that has come out. So let's assume that a presidential candidate on a political party midway says that I no longer want to belong to the party. Like it's happening in places where people have formed their party while still remaining president. What will be the constitutional implications?
We'll get to that.
We'll go to our constitution and check what the MPP's constitution say on that.
It's very important, because you see, we may get there. We may get there. And for me, that is even a bigger issue. That tomorrow, let's say tomorrow, Mr. Akufo-Addo says, President Akufo-Addo says that, Charlie, the way MP people are behaving, I don't like them, so I'm no longer a member of the party. I've resigned.
Well,
what happens?
If we go with that same clause in their constitution, then it means he also forfeits his membership of the MPP.
But you see, there are implications for the country. Those implications are huge. If we get there and then there has to be a presidential election again, at whose cost? And at what cost?
Okay.
So we need to, once these ones are coming up, I will be happy for us to be having that dialogue, so that if we need to make amendments to our laws and things like that, we'll do it now, before we are caught up one day with that kind of situation.
It's obvious that the Honorable Esiama is unhappy with the party. There are issues at the Fomena constituency. Won't this further deepen those cracks? Because now you say he's no longer a member of the party, he's filing to go independent. And there are people who love him. And he's the sitting member of parliament, which is now being contested.
Exactly. So I will not sit here and play the ostrich. Indeed, there's the reality of the story. The thing is that there is no independent individual who decides to run an election that do not have a following. I'm sure he's done his own mathematics and he's come to an answer at the finality that this is a risk worth taking, and he's embarked on that risk. That is why I also say this is a decision of interest. For his interest, he wants to run independent. We have an understanding, and the understanding will expire in the current situation. Ideally and officially, the time for that expiration is on the 6th of January 2021 because of the precedent I discussed earlier.
Yeah.
That we all went in 2015 when I was going for my primary to run, if I got the opportunity to run on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party. There were those clauses. In the event of you losing out of this primary, would you go out or for independent or not? If you admit you will not go out as an independent, if you won, then the party supports you. Now, I'm sure he's traveled that path. And we cannot tie his hands that he should forever and ever abide by those rules. I think over the period, he's decided that he thinks he's not going to subject himself to those tenets again. And so he's decided to go out of that relationship. So in a way, the party can also say there's a breach of trust, a breach of faith. And so I would also take ABC action. I'm sure that's why the party has taken these actions. In each ever conversation, in whichever way you look at this matter, there's going to be some losses, there's going to be some wins. It's just, like I said, it's a test for our constitution. And for me, we need to look at all these things. It's unfortunate, though, that we have come to this end. There are some peculiarity and some issues bothering that particular constituency. But that's another conversation for our political party to do an introspection and look the way forward how we would manage it. But for now, I think that the decisions of the party, because I run in the party on the thicket of the New Patriotic Party. And so abide by the tenets set out by the New Patriotic Party. The parliament that we sit in have set up systems for us that we are running a whip system. So once you belong to, there are only two caucuses in parliament. You either sit with the majority caucus or the minority caucus. In times past, there was a unique situation. The Honorable Sami Nkrumah always sat behind the minority at the time. But she had her own independent. When it came to decision, she was not. And I always admire her courage. She had the point spot on that she was going to sit with because you have to sit with a caucus. She will sit with the minority caucus. But she was going to hold an independent opinion on decision making. So when there were issues which decisions had to be taken, if she felt her independent decision was to be with the majority, she would vote along the majority. If she felt her independent decision would be to vote with the minority, she would vote. And at the time, the speaker had to question her in certain instances where her allegiance lies. He said she's in parliament representing the Convention People's Party and her constituency, and the decision she's taken is in respect of what her constituents have allowed her. I think these are all things that we've come. George spoke of my first deputy speaker, my colleague that I entered parliament with. Because of the processes that are allowed, there's always an amnesty room prior to the processes being kicked in. So Joe Wise was offered that amnesty, that you were a party chairperson, and along the line you entered parliament as an independent candidate. You came and you were offered the opportunity. Where would you want to, which caucus do you want to belong to? At the time, you chose to belong to our minority caucus. He was not enjoying the benefits of us as a political party, but as the caucus in parliament, in minority, he worked along with us. The party benefited from some of his services. So when the amnesty was granted, he took opportunity of that to appeal to the system, go through the motions and the processes. And the party, by its own arrangement, through his behavior, admitted him. Similarly, Esiama has served the party's course in government. Just at the tail end of this administration's term, this is happening. It does not necessarily mean he's forever and ever bad. There are ways of addressing the matter. It's just that, like we all are agreeing, the period of redress, we have no time for anybody. And everybody's interest is very much on point for them. And I will follow my party today and say that for us going through the motions and arriving at the time that the EC all allowed us, everybody's fault, demonstrating to other party that he's going on his own, we are going on our own. So allow us to make our decisions.
This is the big issue on 97.3 City FM. We are on City TV. After this break, we'll delve more into this particular subject and also talk about what is becoming known as the widow succession. Don't go away. You're welcome back. This is The Big Issue on City FM and City TV. My name is Abena Nyamekye Ampadu. I'm here with the Honourable George Loh, former MP for North Dai, and prior so MP Yaw Oppong, private legal practitioner, is on Zoom with us, as well as Franklin Kujo, president of Imani Africa. I'm coming to you, lawyer. So what options legally are open to the Honourable Member of Parliament for Mena Andrew Esiama?
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, I can.
Right. I don't know. I was off, but I don't know whether a matter came up concerning precedents. I mean, I was told yesterday, of course, it was in public, that this is not the first time that a member of the MPP who is in Parliament has decided to contest election for the next Parliament. As an independent candidate.
Also not for everyone did say.
Achim Swedru. Is it? He was not asked to leave, or his seat was not declared vacant, and he continued to serve the MPP in Parliament as if he was still a member. And so precedent is very important in these matters. If the party now is determined to depart from this established precedent, then it should be such that an issue of discrimination, even if raised, can be trumped. Because then otherwise, why should it be that in the case of one person who conducts himself the same way as I have, under the same law, he is allowed to continue to serve the party and his people in Parliament until he lost the following election, which he contested as independent candidate. But when it comes to another, the whip is being cracked. That can itself raise an issue for determination as to whether that is not an act of discrimination. So we're talking about remedies or options. That may be one of them. Eventually, as has been said, this matter may have to go to court if the MP is dissatisfied, or even if a person from his constituency or any person in Ghana who has the capacity to commence an action may even go to the Supreme Court to seek for interpretation as to whether or not, where, as in this situation, a person decides that I'm going to contest the next election not on the ticket of the party through which I came to Parliament, but as an independent candidate. Whether that amounts to a vacancy being caused to his seat, because that whole provision, vacancy or a person ceasing to be member of Parliament. So has that seat become vacant just because he has declared that in the next election he is going to be an independent candidate, or that because the party has, as it were, dismissed him, that in itself is enough to cause the seat in Parliament right now to be declared vacant. So I think that ultimately, if he goes to court, it will benefit all of us. Okay. And anybody, I think, who has capacity can go to even the Supreme Court for a declaration to that effect.
Franklin, I'll give you the final bite on this one. He has an option to go to court, as we heard from Mr. Oppong. Would you rather he consider that option if Parliament agrees to what the MPP is asking for?
Well, like they say, the law is in the bosom of the judge, really. So I would think it shouldn't even get there. Unfortunately, it is almost getting there. So yes, he should explore those options, but at the back of their minds, they must have the ADR aspect as well. I mean, the alternative dispute resolution options as well, because it doesn't really look good at all.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me bring in some messages on this subject before we move along. Kwesi Kasoa says, since Honorable Esiama is contesting as an independent candidate, it means he does not belong to the MPP anymore. So the seat needs to be declared vacant at Parliament and at the constituency for someone else to contest under the ticket of the MPP. well, the MPP already has a candidate there. Sylvester Inteshi, the MPP should understand that Honorable MP is in Parliament because he won an election based on the National Constitution of Ghana and not just the MPP's constitution. He's in Parliament not as a result of the MPP election, but rather a national election. They should leave the man to serve his term. Okay, there's another one here. Dono says, should the president resign, will he cease to be president of Ghana? He represents Ghana, not the MPP. Same applies to the MPs. They represent their constituency, not just the party. You can also send us your messages via any of our social media platforms, or also the number on your television screen, or on this one, 0549 998 69964. Now, let's move on and talk about security for members of parliament. It's just a week ago that the unfortunate incident happened where the member of parliament for Mfantsiman was killed by alleged robbers. Now, following that, we had a conversation here about security for members of parliament and all the options. Now, this week, that has been granted. The legislature will now, from now till the end of the year, receive police protection. 200 officers have been deployed. And this was made known by the Interior Minister Ambrose Derry after he was summoned to the House, and he spoke to the media after an in-camera session with the MPs.
The Minister for the Interior, Ambrose Derry, honoured the directive from the Speaker to brief members on measures to enhance security following the killing of Mfantsiman MP Echo Hayford. Before the briefing started, the Speaker issued a caveat indicating that the session will be held behind closed doors.
For reasons that we shall all come to appreciate in the process. And so, Honourable Clerk, if the House can be cleared of non-members, and then we'll proceed accordingly.
The Minority Leader Haruna Ijusu, however, implored the Speaker to vary his decision based on public interest reasons.
Mr. Speaker, it's a matter that the public is interested, and we need to assure the Ghanaian public of their own safety and security. And therefore, I have to consult further with the leader. When you say closed sitting, then it means the minister will have to brief the media after this, because the Ghanaian public are agitated, and we words cannot express our anguish. I just believe that the public is interested in knowing what is it he and the IGP are doing, and even responding to the president's call. So a closed sitting will deny the public that opportunity.
But the Speaker stuck to his guns.
Let us hear the Honourable Minister in our privileged context and situation. After that, nobody holds anybody's mouth. But please, if a national security minister or a minister of defense or a minister of interior says, I want to brief you and you people alone, should I say you should go and bring spectators before he talks to the House? Please, let's go step by step.
After more than 2 hours of interaction in camera, the Minister for the Interior briefed the media outlining new measures to enhance the safety of members of Parliament.
Thanks to the retooling of the security agencies supported by Parliament, instituted and led by the President, we have more security agencies and security personnel available. So what we have proposed is that between now and the end of the year, we are going to provide additional 200 police personnel to be part of the Parliamentary Protection Unit, making it therefore attain the status of a divisional police command that would take care of members of Parliament as bodyguards. But we ideally, to get to where we should get to, subsequently, we should have 800 police added, so that each member of Parliament will also have security at home in the day and night.
Reporting for City News from Parliament, my name is Duke Mensokoko.
All right, so that's what happened there. I'll begin this particular topic with the Executive Secretary of the Bureau of Public Safety, Nana Yaw Oppong, who has also joined us via Zoom. Hello, Nana Yaw.
Hello, yeah. Good morning to you and the rest of the panelists.
Good morning. I've heard you talk about this deployment since it was announced by the Interior Minister. You say it's a bad idea. Why?
Well, thank you. Matter of fact, before I proceed, I see Honorable Seth Champon in the studio. Please indulge me to pay this tribute to him because I know he lost his primaries and he's not returning to Parliament. But he's one of the finest politicians that I have come across. This man is just a great guy, and I hope that he does make another 10. Just to put it in perspective, one time when we had a program, we were really running a string budget program. He was one of the dignitaries invited. When he came in, whatever envelope he was giving, this man took the envelope, went round the program grounds, looked for me, and then handed back the envelope to me. And the thing he told me still strikes and resonates. I believe that such persons should be encouraged to continue to be in our space, helping organizations.
Nana, go ahead. The Honorable George Loh wants to know what happened to that envelope.
Good morning to Comrade George Loh. Having said that, look, we made the point that the decision of the Interior Minister was a bad one, and we still stand by it. Considering the times, we believe that such retail security at this moment of our national life was a very bad one. And for MPs also jumping at the offer and accepting it, they have not essentially delivered on their mandate to the rest of the people. Why? We have asked certain pertinent questions that in the short to medium term, this decision will impact, seriously on security in the country. We are talking about a country with a national average far below the UN standard of police to civilian ratio. We are looking at 1 to something in excess of 800, which already is bad. Withdrawing 200 men immediately from our streets, from our communities to go and provide bodyguard services for MPs is going to further deepen weaken the police efforts within our communities. One, we are looking at a police force that to date cannot emphatically tell us what the crime rate is in this country, what the crime clearance rate is. We are looking at poor response of police to persons in distress. This average time is going to also go up, which means a lot more people are not going to have the police within range when they are in distress. We are going to see a further deepening in the weakening of motor traffic duties, which means the traffics are going to get uglier, they are going to get harsher, and we are probably going to see an increase in the number of road rage that we are occurring in this country. So if you are listening to me, get ready. You are going to have to contend with the truck drivers in traffic a lot more. Highway patrol services, which before the demise of the MP was nothing to write home about, is going to also further weakened, because we are looking at when some of these highway robberies or blockages occur, we over time are looking at a time of between 6 to 9 hours or sometimes 8 to 9 hours response time for the police. Now withdrawing people from the stations and now giving them to provide bodyguard services, we are going to see a further weakening of police response in highway patrol services. Now, criminal investigations, which was so bad, which was so bad, we, according to the police's own report, available report for 2004, they claim that they are able to investigate only 20% of all cases reported to them. That's just investigation, not investigating and finding perpetrators and apprehending them. No, investigate only 20%. Now, this aspect is also going to drop in the short to medium term. So basically, the decision was a very bad one, considering the fact that before the MP's case, there had been 8 previous cases in the last month, of highway incidents, 8 in which people also died. For you to jump and say because an MP is dead, we are going to provide bodyguard services for MP, I think was a bad one, regardless of all the constitutional arguments they made, because an Article 71 people that were mentioned there are a lot more than MPs, but I shudder if all those persons are getting the kind of bodyguard services that MPs are, if you like, receiving now.
All right. Let me come to the Honorable George Loh. You have been in Parliament before. What was your experience with your personal security like when you were a member?
Well, my personal experience, you would note that if you went back on the internet, I think in 2015 or 2016 or so, while still a member of Parliament, I had a pleasant situation where on about 3 occasions I was attacked at home.
Okay.
Yes, and it brought again on the front burner at the time whether or not MPs should be provided with personal security. You see, I've heard all the arguments, and I like all the arguments I'm hearing. I am happy to hear that Parliament itself is going to have a kind of a divisional police department. Very useful because, you see, when you are on the outside, you do not see the realities that confront MPs all the time. I'll give you one example. You see, if you were doing the kind of work some of us were doing in Parliament at the time, where you were technically a member of several committees, even though you were assigned 2, and you were in leadership of 2, for instance, as I was. You needed to stay in your office sometimes till about 11 p.m. if there was a major bill to be taken on the floor the following day, or reading through some report that you submitted. And you are accosted at all ends when you are leaving into your car. People are lurking in the dark, and you are accosted. Honorable, I saw that your car was here. It could have been anybody or anything happened to you. So first and foremost, the security to be provided in Parliament House itself, and I think it was initiated by the Right Honorable Doa Ajahu. It's very useful, and I wish you take the opportunity to congratulate ACP Freeman Tete for the fantastic job we are doing. But for me, the deployment or the operationalization is something we should look at. I have no problems at all, to be frank with you, if MPs were provided with personal security, because it is part of their perks of office, which has never been done. And like he said, Article 71, all of them, I can give you a list. You see, I've written a list. Even why would a DC or MMDC in his district be provided with security in his home and his office, whilst the member of Parliament who stacks, I would say, it's more involving because of the mobility of it. It's left, as somebody would say in a local palace, it's left ajar. So I believe that we should have a fuller conversation. But I also agree with the voice I'm hearing that, Charlie, this issue is not about who should get security and who should not. This issue should be about, look, every citizen of this country must walk around feeling protected, must sleep, go to bed knowing that should any bad person try to enter my house, at the trigger of a button, the police will be there in 5 minutes. That is the society we should be aspiring to. I remember when, was it Paul Quay? The one after Paul Quay became IGP. We used to have police visibility. You walked around your area with a policeman, with a car parked or a couple of police. It made you feel a little safer. As to whether they were given all the gadgets that they needed to be able to, as it were, operate efficiently is another matter. But I'm saying that our mindset should not just be that, like somebody said, like an MP has been killed. So the minister rushes to parliament and he wants to solve that problem. What about the rest of everybody else? So I think that this argument should be held at two levels. The MPs are people's major stakeholders in our body politics. By the constitution itself, they have been given some special privileges, including security. So it should not be seen as though, in fact, it's something that they deserve that they are not being given. So nobody is doing MPs a favor by deciding that for now we'll provide them with police. The numbers are huge. We have no problem. We have no qualms about that. And definitely, as Nana said, it may affect the police in many ways because the police themselves have been consistently telling us that we don't have enough men. So to quickly come and tell us that you can deploy maybe about 1,000 men within this short time, why are they going to do some magic or something? Particularly for this electioneering period, I would prefer that MPs, there's some arrangements. For instance, recently I traveled with some caucus from Parliament on some assignments. At least we were lucky to have 2 armed policemen on our bus. So it wasn't like every MP was given a policeman, but we had 2 armed police officers on the bus, giving us protection through and through, which I thought was a good idea. And many more of those things can be, that's why I said the operationalization. But you see, one of the biggest problems I have is that for the MP to be able to sit down and do his work, domestic security must be taken seriously. Because 98% when I was MP, there was no weekend I spent with my family in Accra. If I was not out of the country, I was in Koforidua, Cape Coast, somewhere, some workshop. If it's not an official parliamentary workshop, some public organization is doing something and they want your input and things like that. And I never, in fact, there was after the couple of attacks on my family, would you believe that when we have workshops, I insist that we go to Koforidua because I travel to Koforidua every day because I want to come back home and sleep. You see, so the challenges are real. We must take the bull by the horn as a state, not even as a government, as a state, and decide that, look, security is one of our topmost priorities. Our people need to feel safe. Not only MPs, not only judges, not only MMDCs, but every Ghanaian citizen must walk around knowing that should anything untoward happen, security-wise, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, there's a policeman there, and that when they do come, they have the apparatus to be able to do a thorough job, and not be, security should not be farmed out as to who is involved. For instance, he's talking about prior to the unfortunate demise of our MP brother, there were several other reported
highway robberies.
How many people have been arrested? But how come that this one, people arrest have been made already? I always say that Ghana police, what I like about them is once they decide that this particular case here, we are getting to the bottom of it, give them 3 days. They'll give you results. So
for you, this deployment doesn't solve the larger problem?
At all. We have a real national problem. And we should do it and resolve it. And you see, that is why some of us are worried about the way security is being treated.
We'll come to that. Let me hear from the Honorable Ampadu. Honorable, this seems to be some of the things that have been solved quickly. Going to Parliament, hearing the minister, and by the snap of the finger, it has been done.
I'm sure That is how it's being reported, but that is not the exact story. First and foremost, the president had sworn that security of the constituents of the Republic of Ghana that put him in office, he will provide for their public safety. So he's demonstrated same since his assumed office. The operatives, the security agencies under his watch have also improved on what the minister responsible for Interior stated in his press briefing, and that the agencies and the services have been retooled. The agencies and the services have been improved in their numbers. This administration took office when our police strength was in the region of 32,000. Today we are within the region of 37,000. And so we've improved on that phase. We have provided for more equipment, more personal gears, and then more weaponry to enable them prosecute the assignment the state has mandated them to do. So if you come in the interior space, you have the Immigration Service, which is our border control, who is also being strengthened by an act of 2016 that we should provide them with arms because their fellow border patrol control persons who are on the other jurisdictions we share borders with, our neighbors, are also armed to the teeth. And so we should do same. And this government pursued the law and have provided same for them. Unfortunately, internal crime, my colleague George alluded to what we call them the 10 cities. At a point in deployment of operations in our metropolis, primarily Accra and Kumasi, the greater areas, we at vantage points mounted police tents, so visibility will be very rare. At the time, we're in the process of improving on technology in respect of watching over the community. So it's been a journey. As we speak, as you drive across this metropolis, you find at crossroads mostly, and some T-junctions and some vantage points, some edifices being raised in the form of cameras.
The CCTV.
Anti-CCTV cameras. It is part of the deployment to enhance visibility in the communities. That is using technology. Now, we have added some men. Let us not forget, at the outset of this fourth Republican dispensation, this parliament, the first parliament, started a conversation. The conversation was, it felt that by the principle of separation of powers, we had some members and offices which were operating that needed protection. And the office of the member of the representative is such qualified office that needed attention. But because it is the people's marketplace, I call, the people's forum, we are more in visibility than all the other people. So the security advice at the time was to wait till we improve upon the numbers. At the commencement of the 7th Parliament, this same conversation came up because we realized that there's been some improvement, partial improvement, where we have our leadership enjoy same. So it's been a journey. And then coincidentally, unfortunately, this decision met with the timeous unfortunate death of my colleague.
So this was something that was already in the pipeline.
Something which has been on the drawing board. We've been discussing it. It's not new.
But there are many Ghanaians who feel that you are prioritizing your lives over the ordinary citizen.
I don't fault them at all. I don't fault them at all. The most important thing is how do we provide for adequate public safety. And that is why I started my narrative of what is being done and what is going on. My brother Nana Yaw talked about the deployment shortfalls in the exigencies.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and he knows, that the operational teams have done all these evaluations before taking such a decision in upgrading the police station at Parliament to the status of a command division. So as a divisional command, it has to come with certain characteristics, and some is the additional numbers which is being fed there. You see, the wisdom in this is that, as I see it, we are on the precincts of Parliament, fully clothed with security. We take decisions that borders on, you know, letting some lose their businesses, letting some lose their jobs, and these are not just ordinary decisions. They are decisions that have some repercussions. So they, in their own assessment and evaluation, see that it is important that the members operating from these arenas are offered some protection. So you come and take decisions in a very secured environment. In transition to your abode, you have none. And the evidence that have been gathered so far is not all that have been told. Like George, who is here today, mentioning his ordeal, how crime happened in his home. It is not on record, except he mentions it here, or you go fishing out for information from the police records, you would not even know. It's not out there in the front burner. So these are matters that, in analyzing and evaluating our security space, we all need to advert our minds to, that it is not just for the persons there, but for the office they operate in, they need to be secured, because history is taught us that it has been happening, and once it becomes more, you need to raise a policy to ensure that this is addressed. And that is why this decision was taken. And I'm sure it demonstrated itself in the statement of the Honorable Minister of Interior.
You talk about the number of police officers, which was 32,000, which your government, you say, have shot up to 37,000.
Yes, please.
That is still inadequate.
But highly inadequate.
Did the Interior Minister talk to you members, or were any answers demanded as to how these numbers are going to be shored up? Because you are taking 200 out of the pool to protect yourselves.
Thank you very much. Simplicity to protect yourself. It's not to protect me. It is to
yourselves
protect,
as in members of Parliament.
Protect the institution of Parliament. You see, whatever has happened in the past weeks, Parliament has lost greatly. When George will tell you, when you enter, he's a lawyer, but when you enter Parliament, it's an institution of its own. And so you get to go to be nurtured, and you build capacity. This is a person we have developed and built capacity. We've just lost all that investment.
Well, same can be said for the people who have lost their lives in highway robberies and other crimes.
Exactly. That's the only way we can even discuss that. My worst unfortunate passing is when we lost 4 urologists in one vehicle traveling on a highway through accident. It is one thing that anytime when it drops in my spirit, I feel so sad about it, because they were experts of this land that we lost, specialized professionals. So I'm saying this, as a country, the conversation must be developed. The conversation will hold. The MPs, I always call that people within the governance equation, forgive me, and I'm sure I'll be forgiving, as the guinea pigs. At the least, anything about the MPs is to be thrown outside. But I am saying that they are the people who are representing the people in whom sovereignty resides in this country. And so we should advert our minds to protecting such characters. So whatever we have to demand of them, we demand them highly. It is important and incumbent upon them. So when these commentary is emanating out of a decision taken by the Interior Ministry and the security services to draw more attention in and on these people, I know it will elicit some kind and engender the conversation we're having today. But I must admit that it is not out of place at all. It is proper that we discuss it and we express and get to appreciate the gaps, and we improve upon our public safety as a country. This will be my initial take.
Okay. Abdul Zati from Bolga says, I support the police assignment to MPs. They need to be protected, but I want the security for MPs. I want to know whether security for the MPs is constitutional or not. The Honorable George Loh has spoken about that.
It's part of that.
You see, as part of the conditions for Article 71 beneficiary, it's not only MPs, we are many.
The executive and other appointees.
They need to be taken care of.
Okay. Okay. Prince Henry Nkoforidia, good morning, Abna. Only supports the police protection for MPs on temporary basis. What the government must do is make sure all citizens are protected by enhancing the security network of our land. The government has the highest number of security personnel, so under no circumstances should we be experiencing such high insecurity issues in our country. Why is someone not losing his job? Because of the high rate of crimes and insecurity in Ghana. There are over 2,000 ex-servicemen who were retired and we are home. Make use of your trained ex-servicemen. Okay, that's a message from XW01 Bree Crying, and he's texting us from Empire, so your constituency. Okay, Farouk in Tamale North. Indeed, the current state of Ghana's security is nothing to write home about. The president must wake up. Providing security to our legislators is a good move, but this should be done across the board. I'm bringing in a clip also from Parliament from Major Retired Derek Odro. He's the Deputy Defence Minister, and he had some comments about the deployment and how the message is being received. I'll play that and then come to you, Franklin, Mr. Oppong, and then Anaya.
So if you rise against members of parliament as if we are from Afghanistan, as if we are from Congo River Basin, who are brought to come and put down here to serve the nation. Meanwhile, you voted for us. You're supposed to love us, get us closer to you. But you hate parliamentarians, and it's partly because some of you, the media, you incite the general public against us. We must be frank. So the Interior Minister is saying that, yes, they have enough police people to provide security for MPs and provide security for the whole nation. That is why we have been given, and we are thankful to the government of the day that today he has listened to us. How many of the MPs do you want them to be killed before we ask of this personal security for MPs? I don't think you are happy that our brother Kwanzaa has been killed. I don't think you are rather, or you are shedding crocodile tears. Yes. Or do you want JB Dankwa? You would have, he wouldn't have been killed if he had the security for himself. So we are saying that the law says that we should be giving. Don't give two and leave one. Okay? This is all that we are saying. And you shouldn't be annoyed that we ask for what we are required. That is what we need, and that is what the law says give us. Okay?
The concern being raised by security experts like
don't talk about I don't want to hear security experts.
No,
I'm also a security expert.
That's fine. That's fine. But for example, they make the case that if you are taking 200 men off patrol duties, visibility duties, in the long term, 800 of them, certainly operational police work will be affected.
What work have they done? I wouldn't allow you to stop. I am saying that they are visible all over the place. The Interior Minister is saying that he has no problem. You, the security expert, you are sitting somewhere and say we have problem. Last week, how many policemen passed out? Almost 2,000. You know, every 6 months they pass out, and you are saying that we don't have enough policemen. They cannot be adequate. 100%. Listen to me. They cannot be 100%. So because we don't have every. I am saying that 200 doesn't cause any harm to the police authorities. They don't have any problem. They are there, they say they don't have any problem. You are sitting somewhere and say, I'm a security expert, and they have problem.
He appears to understand how this works.
He appears to misunderstand. He appears to misunderstand what you are saying. He doesn't understand the situation. How can you say that until and unless all the parliamentarians come to realization or are able to solve the problems of the killings in the country, are we responsible for the killing of the people? We make laws. We make sure that government should sit up and make sure that everybody gets adequate protection. So if something happens, we call them to parliament for them to come and answer. That is our responsibility. We don't have cane here to whip. We don't have, listen to me, we don't have cane here to whip sector ministers. We draw the attention for you and for me and for everybody. And they sit up. Are you aware that the minister said yesterday that the armed robbery rate has come down by 53% from last year to this year? If you compare the figure, are you aware that yesterday he said that the general crime wave has come down by 10%? 2019, 2020. You see, he said all these things. I'm happy you are aware.
Yes.
And therefore, if he is saying that because of the fact that we have produced more police people, we have produced more military, and we have given them adequate support, logistics, equipment, communication. Haven't you been seeing this CCTV cameras in town? You have been seeing when you go, it flashes, it's taking pictures. So we have improved the situation, okay? So we don't have the problem of providing security for the few members of parliament who are left. I am a member of executive as well as member of judiciary. Legislature. Okay, I have personal security because I belong to defense, and we are soldiers there to go along with me. Okay, my friends don't have, so the few people who have not, why don't you give them?
All right, so that's Deputy Defense Minister and also his MP for Nkranza North, Major Retired Derek Ojo. I want to come to you, Franklin, on this one.
Oh, God. So it was Manguru Kante, the medieval king of Soso, Western Sudanese Empire, who said that it's a hard world, really. A donkey may be carrying water, but may die out of thirst. Then I recall that the Benokri, the Nigerian poet and essayist, had said not long ago that the politician and the magician have something in common, that they try hard to draw attention away from the reality. And you see, it was George Padmore, the Trinidadian essayist and journalist, who also suggested that, look, the problems of the African, however unimportant, may be linked to just one thing: the struggle for political and economic rights. And I'll end with George Orwell's 1984. You see, the issue, well, that was before 1984, the Animal Farm. This politics of police protection actually annoys me to the high heavens. The point I'm making it with all these references is that, look, even the police themselves have challenges, right? Who said that the police may not be targets for these armed violent crimes? They are. So the notion that all of a sudden, once we appropriate from the smaller fold, number of policemen to protect our vaunted MPs, then all of a sudden, the security situation could be managed at least until December. How interesting and piecemeal approach are we dealing with the issue of security? So have we even come to the issues about the exclusion of everybody else, which is something I thought we should be working towards, by the way. But all these, I mean, I'm struggling to find out what the connection between what happened to the unfortunate MP is with the fact that there's this gung-ho attempt to all of a sudden provide security even at home, at workplace, and all of that. I said the security of the entirety of the state does not matter. In fact, it is the duty of the parliamentarian and the executive to ensure that everybody's lives and property are protected. It's the first major duty. But I'm not surprised. You know, in times past, in medieval France, there was a time when parliamentarians could do anything. In fact, they even decided to pass a law against the sun from burning candlesticks. But they thought the sun was a competitor to candlesticks. So for me, all these things are happening, and I only laugh. Major Drill's rendition is one of the biggest cantata I've actually experienced. It's a political season, and so you allow some of these comments as well. But it sounded serious in that comedy, by the way. That's all I can say.
All right. This is still the big issue. I'm taking another break here. We'll return with more. Don't go away.
It is Christmas. What do you want for Christmas? A new car, a vacation, or expand your business? Make your wish and have it come true in the 100 days of Christmas with a Republic Bank Christmas loan. The Republic Christmas loan is quick, easy, and so affordable with super fast turnaround time. Come into any of our branches nationwide. Call or WhatsApp 055-654-3212 or apply online via republicghana.com. Remember, wear your nose mask, stay safe. Republic Bank, we are the one for you.
Play the Golden Goal on Bet Planet today with just 20 Ghana cedis. You could win a Mercedes and 100,000 Ghana cedi worth of prizes. This advert has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below the age of 18.
Thank you for staying with us here on The Big Issue. We are live on City TV and City FM as well. We've been talking about the deployment of some 200 police officers for members of parliament from now till the end of the year. We understand the long-term plan is to add some 800 more officers to that team. They are working under Parliament's police units that has been upgraded to a command now, we are told. Mr. Oppong, I would like to take your comments on this issue now. We spoke about this last week. The MPs explained the need and why it is imperative for the men to be deployed. But people feel that looking at the swiftness, if it seems as though they matter more than the rest of the citizenry.
Well, I think we all know that this matter has been on the table last but I made similar comments that what I made last week when the annual gave me also unfortunate life 3 years ago. So I think it is not something new. And I'm delighted that swift solutions are being found for not just the security of MPs, but for the entire as well. So that if MPs have security in their homes, I think that they should not be static in the home or at the gate of the MP. These MPs, fortunately for us, live in various communities. And so and therefore it should be possible for these personnel to patrol the community as far as proximity will allow.
We are told they are bodyguards. They are bodyguards. So in a situation where the MP finds himself or herself on the Accra High Street and there's an incident, what will be the priority, the MP or the people? How would that benefit the people around there?
Sometimes the fact that there's a police officer at a place alone, to some extent, deter people from engaging in unlawful acts. I mean, visibility works, as has already been said. So I'm saying that instead of they just being bodyguards, now that the Parliament itself is going to have police station or a post, as it were, I think those who will be stationed there should be enough for the security of members of parliament at work. And those who are deployed to their homes should be allowed to patrol the areas as much as I said, proximity will permit, so that they will not just be stationed in front of or in MP's house or their boys' quarters, but the community, the people who live in that community where the MPs are stationed, will also benefit from the presence of the police. In addition to the fact that normally police vehicles will come and drop these police people, they should let people be aware that there is police presence in this particular area. But the bottom line also is that sometimes you realize that these MPs and even some ministers don't have the minutest of clue about even personal security. And I think that their personal training is also important, because if they have training on how to keep their environment, their close environment safe, there are times that even without the presence of a police officer, they would have made provision for it. Last week I mentioned the importance of CCTVs. The state is doing but private CCTVs, it will be surprising that some MPs don't even have it in their own homes. You are talking about.
All right. Looks like we are having a challenge with Mr. Oppong. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. We lost you momentarily,
yes,
so
I'm
if you can.
That in the minds of the, I think the internet is bothering us.
All right, we'll let it try and get a stable connection and come back to you. But let me go to Nanaya Wakwada. Nanaya, if you can hear me, the issue has been how dangerous or how susceptible these MPs are to all forms of attack. Now, you say this move is a bad one. How would you rather this problem be fixed?
All right, thank you. Let me just throw in a few statistics so I can make the point rather better. When we argue that MPs are susceptible, I, for instance, do not know what that means, because I have indicated to you that prior to what happened on the Boadze Road involving the Honorable Minister, there's been 8 previous incidents, some of them occurring on the same route. Okay, so whatever happened on that fateful day was a mere spillover of actually how our society is evolving in terms of security, or is a mere spillover of the degrading security situation in the country. So we cannot narrow it down to mean that MPs are under attack or they are susceptible. Citizens are susceptible alike. Okay, look, statistics available indicate that, and I heard Major Drew, the Deputy Defense Minister, share a few statistics saying that armed robbery is down and some other things. Per the Bureau of Public Safety Surveillance, we observed that violent crime for the first half of this year compared to first half of last year came down by 3%. Okay, it was down by 3%, but the associated deaths, okay, went up by over 20%. Specifically, was 26%. Okay, so while we have probably violent crime coming down, the death rates are going higher. It means criminals are employing more lethal means of perpetrating their acts. And these were the figures we are expecting the Interior Minister to avert himself to. We observe further that the use of guns as a force multiplier in commission of crime also went up. The preferred choice of weapon for criminals today in Ghana is gun. It went up by 21%. Okay, so we cannot look at what occurred in Infantima and narrow it down to MPs. Why? We further observe that 73% of all murder cases were occurring while people were in transition. Okay, so the MP was in transition, the market woman is in transition, the lecturer is in transition, and we are all exposed. So coming in to say, oh, the security situation in the country is bad, we need to do something about it, and you say what we can do immediately, which Ms. Oppong was referring to as a swift response, is to provide bodyguard services for MPs. Wrong. You got it completely wrong. It's like burying your head in the sand. Okay? Murder cases alone has shot up, comparing first half of 2020 and first half of 2019, shot up from 19% to 30%. So all the statistics is going in the upward direction. I want Major Loh to understand that perhaps because of his background, he talks the way he does. But he must understand that we are in a democratic era and we have something we call democratic policing. One of the pillars, or if you like two, is accountability and transparency. We, the people, for whom you are making security decisions, you must involve us. And we are saying that we need to know from the Minister of Interior what measures he is taking to fill up all these gaps that I outlined in my my opening statements. If their mind is to involve the military in police work, then as a country we must be prepared to pay the price. And the price is going to come in the associated excesses, okay? It's also going to come in adulterating the military conscience that we spend so much money and time to imbibe within the military force. So let no one think that by throwing 200 policemen, withdrawing them from the communities, from our highways and byways, and throwing them at members of parliament will solve any situation in the short to medium term. The situation is going to worsen as we see it. If it took the police force 3 to 9 hours to mobilize when there is a roadblock, perhaps now it's going to take them 24 hours. When we do that, we are undermining the very democracy that we have spent so many years and made so many sacrifices to build, because eventually the people are going to realize that what bothers them is not the concern of the ruling class. And your guess is as good as mine. So the earlier the Minister of Interior takes steps to correct this error, I think the better for all of us.
All right. Honorable Ampong, so the concern has been what happens to the general population.
Exactly. I have been going through some information that I have, and I must share, like Nanea talked about, quarter analysis of crime. 2019, 2020. I have the current one, 2019, July, August. 2020, July, August. There's been a reduction. That was what the minister was alluding to in the press statement, that crime has reduced. That is how far we are improving the system on. And so that does not mean there's no crime. Crime goes on daily. Like I said elsewhere, a month ago, 3 weeks to a month ago, on a Saturday like this, there's a particular neighborhood in my constituency called Nkatapa. The traders go and sell their wares on Saturday. And you have traders coming all over from within the southern sector. Because
sorry, let me just hold on to that. I need to make a quick announcement. So on radio, we'll be bringing you the commentary of the English Premier League. So the big issue will be going off radio, but you can follow the conversation on your television or on Facebook as well. Honorable, please continue.
So what I want to say is that, yes, within a certain period, crime would have been high. But if you go through the analysis, we're having a reduction now. The reason why we are saying and urging the Minister of Interior and the police service to do more is based on the recent strength and improvement they've made in terms of gains.
Okay.
However, that is not enough for us. Because of the season we're in, tension is going to go higher, crisscrossing and running around, campaigning. Even though COVID is not offering us opportunity to aggressively campaign like our culture and traditional ways of campaigning, we are still going to experience some crime. So I know that in no time, and I must state this, we were to meet with the Minister of Interior on Thursday, but unfortunately, you know, as Ghanaians and as Africans, our colleague we lost, the family sat and observed the 1 week of his demise, and we couldn't have taken ourselves from that activity, so we participated. So we couldn't do, and then there were other engagements. We are meeting them. We are asking the minister to come again to Parliament to give us a thorough breakdown on all issues. First and foremost, how is he going to go about his election task force management? Because that is the reserve of the IGP and the police service, together with other security services. At the same time, we are looking into the highway patrols. What strategy are they deploying to reduce it? How are they doing community policing for all of us to realize that they are at it and they are helping us reduce?
Okay.
I would want us to interrogate some of these things, and I know very soon, in the next week, security is going to be a conversation again, because he's prepared. He was supposed to come to meet us on Thursday. He was fully prepared.
Okay.
But because of the calendar and the exigencies, we couldn't do anything. Next week, and I want to encourage and assure my brother Nana Yaw that it is our duty as reps of the people to ensure that we are all safe. He talked about, and I have been stating it, that I said in the transition, we need to take care of the transition as well. That's why you have highway patrols. That's why you have snap checks. Because when people are commuting from here to their homes, in that transition, how best do you take care of them? And that's why I talked about some of the investments that have been done in assisting, because all those cameras feed a command center. And so it reduces patrols and not your presence. But your presence is exchanged with technology and allows thorough visibility. You know how videos capture. Today, modern cameras capture close to 200 to 300 per second in movement. And so these are very useful aids.
Okay, so for now, per the meeting last week, there wasn't a plan about the general
there's
country,
a plan,
but he's here to brief you.
Yeah, no. We are asking for some further and better briefings.
Okay.
You know, on the invitation to Parliament, it was on a specific matter of our colleague and the good old conversation of what plans have they been putting in place for that. So we had that conversation.
All right.
But in camera, a lot was said that I'm not permitted to say, because as part of our standing orders, I cannot say all that. But that's what I'm saying. We're going to go on with him again coming week on the generality, and people will hear us and people will see what we're doing there.
Honorable Loh, he says there's something in the pipeline.
No, he knows.
on the general security architecture and to beef it up.
Well, it's good to hear that at least the momentum is being maintained. It's extremely important. Like I have said, and like others have said, you see, I spoke about, I want to see how it's going to be operationalized. For instance, if we have 200 policemen assigned to the parliamentary police department, are they going to just sit there when Parliament in session? Or how are they going to be deployed to the benefit of the totality of that whole enclave? Let's be mindful of the fact that that whole enclave in and around Parliament is made up of very important public installations and other things. So how are they going to deploy in such a way that the MP sitting in the chamber or in his office feels secured. Then again, how is this whole thing going to manage? And I'm very happy with Mr. Oppong when he says that, for instance, in my brother Seth's area, let people feel secured because he lives there.
Okay.
You understand? That because you even have an MP living in your area, by virtue of his being there, security is being deployed in such a way that everybody in and around him benefits. You understand? So we want to see some, if they are going to deploy 1,000 police people in the next 6 months, we want to see the effect of 1,000 people on the general populace, and then of course on general security, so that I have a regular, because of some of the things we do, sometimes you are getting home at 12 midnight, 11, let me drive knowing very well that even when my car breaks down, or if my car breaks down, quickly a police officer can come and be of assistance. It's only in Ghana that I mean, really, when you are even being a policeman who feels that he has not been assigned, would either ride past or drive past as if it's no big. But I believe that security, modern day security, goes beyond a policeman holding a gun and standing by Honorable Seth because he has been assigned as his security. We want a situation where our daily lives are influenced by the way our security personnel, both national security and police, being deployed. And of course, in doing this, let me also sound the warning that the phrase, my friend, should really reflect the relationship between the police and the public. And that whilst we are churning out more police people and deploying them, we must train them to understand that you are a complement to us. And you are not coming to lord it over us or terrorize us. Don't let citizens feel terrorized. They must feel that the police is a friend and is there to help.
Okay. Lawyer, I'm coming to you on the issue of security protection for the judiciary. Last week you made mention of how it's the higher court judges who have security. But talking about those are the lower courts, and that's where many of suspected criminals are taken to from the very beginning. Do you think there should be a broadened conversation to cater for the lower court judges as well and to also capture them?
Yes, exactly. As you rightly said, I mean, especially these armed robbery cases and other serious crime. In fact, the commencement of proceedings in murder cases starts at the district magistrate court. And if a person is charged with an offense of murder, you can imagine that even the mere mention of it, the feeling of even the judge who is going to sit in the proceedings at the commencement stage, and that judge may not have a security personnel at all around. So it is a good point. Of course, people will still raise the issue of lack of numbers of the police. But as I have already said, once there is a general feeling of protection, then people will also freely go about their duties and perform these functions. So, you know that judges are not allowed to sit mostly in camera unless the law permits. So you try a criminal in open court, convict the person, and the person has to spend maybe the rest of his life or even risk being killed by the state, I mean, in capital punishment situations. It may not be so easy for that person, that judge, to also freely conduct himself or herself. So that is very important. I think we should begin to also think about that. But also, I think we must also highlight the welfare of the police. If a police officer is detailed to, let's say, a member of parliament house or the community, and he has no
All right, we seem to have run into that technical challenge again with a connection. Let me bring in some of your messages. Akia in Lashibi. I totally agree with Yaw Oppong's submission on deploying police personnel in areas where the MPs live to also take care of all those living in that community so that it's not giving an MP one police to himself. Benofori in Sapeman, Ghanaian MPs, you have been given free light, free water, free toll, and after all, ex gratia. They are now asking for a bodyguard. What about the ordinary Ghanaian who voted them into power? Okay. Is this the first robbery that has happened in Ghana, you ask? James in Dansoman, are the MPs telling us their job of just formulating and passing laws is dangerous? What do they do that puts their lives in danger? Okay. More of your messages. Kofi Geraldo, please, we vote MPs and other public office holders to do good for us and maintain security for everyone. We copy a lot of things from the West if it justifies our interests, but not ready as successive governments to copy the things that the systems in the West put in place to take care of their citizens. Okay. Jeffrey Nkwewu, the crime scene that led to the death of Mr. Hayford, we are told the robbers were 8 or so, with each one of them fully armed. Therefore, how can one policeman assigned to an MP overpower these bunch of criminals in any unfortunate crime scene? All right, quickly to some of the messages on Twitter. As much as we have to enhance security for legislators, it should be seen to be part of an integrated strategy to improve security for all. I'm trying to get another one. Lord says, why is Major Derrick Oduro so upset? When the 4 Takoradi girls got kidnapped, did every girl in town get a police guard? No. Instead of making the country safe for all of us, they want guards for themselves. All right. Thank you for your messages. This one from Nane J. What's the Deputy Minister saying? Is he saying good national security is less important than the MP's security? Okay. All right. I cannot continue with the other words you used. Nanaya, I'd like to take your final comment on this subject. Recommendations. Honorable Echampon said next week they are going to get other details from the Interior Minister on plans, of course, going into the elections. But what would you want to see differently?
Well, thank you. Isn't that the problem we have been talking about? That for the Interior Minister to go to the House of Parliament, the people's representatives, without any details at all, without making known to them the impact that this hasty decision is going to have on the people, we go and make such offering to them and ask them that, look, next week, after publicly accepting the offer, next week I'll come and tell you what the consequences of that decision will be. He says
there was a plan for last week, but due to the 1-week commemoration of the late Kwanzaa, that's how come that meeting couldn't happen. Just to put it in context.
That's fair. We will wait next week to listen to the details of whatever subsequent decisions that is going to come out, especially how the minister intends to fill the gaps that will be created, or the shortfall, the deficit that will be created as a result of this decision. In the immediate term, we would want to see an injection of more numbers to fill the gap. We'd want to see MPs, aside the police body services that will be provided to them. We'd want to see the state, subsequent the next parliament, take them through intensive personal and safety security sessions, so that they know that they have a primary responsibility to protect themselves, other than wait for someone to do the protection for them. And then we must also situate all of this in context that this week the Executive Secretary of the Small Arms and Light Weapons Commission mentioned that there's been an increase in demand for arms. People making demands on the Interior Minister to own sidearms, to own all sorts of guns and things is on the increase. We must understand also that we have, and when these demands are met, we are told that in a year, successive year, very few of them come for renewal, which means we render a vast majority, in excess of 80% of what is licensed each year. We just push them on into the illicit realm. So we must do something about it. We must also aim at reviewing the Small Arms and Light Weapons Act. There are provisions in the Vigilantism and Other Related Offences Act, very intelligent provisions in there that require the attention of the Interior Minister. Time has elapsed. We have 1 month provision and a 3-month provision. We are almost nearing into a year or over a year of the passage of Act 999. Those provisions have not been complied with. It renders us vulnerable, and it deprives the state of useful intelligence. We will also see the police visibility program, rekindled and then come up in our communities.
Thank you very much. Ms. Oppong, if you could quickly round up on the point you were making so we get into the next topic.
Right, thank you very much. I hope it's better.
Yes, it is. In 1 minute, if you can just summarize it for me.
I think that we should also highlight the need for enhanced privileges and, if you like, welfare for the police. We understand there is weapon compensation, which generally may not be adequate. If we are giving, as people say it, privileges to our MPs and some public officers under Article 70, then those who are going to perform the functions to ensure their security should also, if for nothing at all, exclusively be given some enhanced benefits so that they can do the job, knowing that even if they must end their life or they must be affected by some kind of injury or some personal disturbance that may render them incapable of performing other functions in future, they have something to fall on. So that those people should be given some additional privileges and welfare packages, perhaps other than those doing other jobs, so they can do the job wholeheartedly and with total and absolute commitment.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Let's now talk about what is appearing to be a trend when it comes to succession of members of parliament in Ghana. And here I'm making reference to a number of women who have succeeded their husbands, either as parliamentary candidates or as MPs. What we are having it. The first one is Linda Obenewa Akwele-Oklu. And in the run-up to the 2016 elections, she was selected by the opposition NDC to step into the shoes of her late husband, Desmond Oklu, who was representing the NDC for Shai Osudoku. Now, the man died in a road accident. Sorry to remind the family of this unfortunate incident. And the woman had to contest the election. We can also talk about Ayawaso West Wogon in 2019, where the wife of Emmanuel Chirmatenge Jakon, Lydia Seram Al-Hassan, who is the incumbent MP, also contested the by-election and won. Now, this matter is coming up because of the Mfantsiman constituency incident, where the wife of the late Eko Kwansa Hayford, the MPP has settled on her to contest the election on their party's tickets. Honorable Loh, is this woman empowerment? Or what plan are the two parties adopting with this kind of secession?
Well, politics is a very interesting arena. And when it comes to decision making, several things go into it. Let me start by saying that this is not, and it wasn't even started with Linda Oklu. You remember that there was a professor in the Bronga, I think Colin Dowders constituency, who died, and the wife came to parliament through a by-election. So it's been something that has been there. But you see, for me, who represents a party is a function of several decision making, particularly the constituents. The political party executives in the constituency would make that decision depending on several factors. Let's start with what happens. Normally, in most cases, if you are an MP's wife, chances are that, just like first ladies, you get rules to play with the party people. Because when the MPs are around, party people come in, you are the one who cooks for them. Sometimes in your absence, when they have challenges, the women will come to you, or some men will come and tell you their challenges, believing that you have your husband's ear. And therefore, and through that process, you become, the people are able to assess you and be able to decide that, oh, you are like their mother. So if in the unlikely event or the unfortunate event that things like this happen, even through the commiseration period and everything, when the issue of succession comes back, it is not difficult for people to look around and say, but she has been doing the work of the husband already. Why don't we ask her to take over? It's one way that I feel it happens. And for instance, with this Jaku's wife, Seriam, for instance, I know that, in fact, when the decision was made, I was surprised to know that even she was dealing with the students on campus, and that when they needed school fees, she was the man would direct them to, and things like that. So they got familiar. And politics is about relationship and familiarity. In fact, any other thing is secondary. Nobody will vote for you because they think you are a brilliant lawyer per se in your constituency. First and foremost, they want somebody they can approach. You understand? Somebody they think they can get the things they want from, be it the everyday little tengana, this and that and that.
So that's really why people vote for you?
That is what would make the people even want to look at you. Why, if you come to a certain constituency, and if you like, let Honorable Seth go to his constituency every day in his V8 and walk about, if he were not an MP, and walk about, and people do not feel that, when they come to you, you give support. See, go and stand and see. That is why you see professors go and contest tailors, and they lose. Because they want somebody who they know, who they can go to, who they are comfortable with. And in most cases, like I'm saying, the women are able to support their husbands or complement their husbands. So for me, in many cases, it's not too difficult for us. Where I depart from the issue is that for us in the NDC, you will notice that consistently, anytime it happens, we ask the women to go for primaries.
Primaries, okay.
So in Linda's case, she contested Dr. Pesa White and won. In fact, one of our parliamentary candidates, in fact, who was an MP who has won his primaries against David Adakrugu, who passed on. The wife is our candidate now. She went through primaries.
Yeah.
You understand? So this whole issue, it's only one side of the story. The other side is what people are speculating. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Well, there is no foolproof system. There is no foolproof system. On the surface of it, for me, if it's a general decision by the constituency that we have confidence in our late MP's wife and that she has the capacity and the capability to represent us in parliament, why not? She's a citizen of the land. Unless she's not qualified. But if she qualifies, then she's a citizen just like any other person who is desirable to vote by. It is a decision they make. I do not believe that anybody went and put a gun on the head of their wife and say, if you don't accept, we will shoot you. No, they are given the opportunity to reflect, and see if they really, really want to step into those shoes. And if they really, really, really are happy with it, they get in. Other than that, I don't see anything entirely wrong
with that.
Because the decision is normally by the constituents. They are the ones she's going to represent. So if they feel that she is the one better placed to represent them, so be it.
Honorable Ampong,
yes,
so in such a case, I saw your reaction when Mr. Loh was talking about the relatability, the wives always supporting their husbands' campaigns and everything. But this is somebody who has not gone into a primaries.
Yeah,
what happened to the other person who contested the primaries?
In all the processes, it is still involved with the people. So it's still a people's choice. So in any event, the same people would have to congregate. Even if she's going to be the eventual, once the party is decided, they will certainly have to call for a constituency conference and get her affirmed, and then they move on. Because of the exigencies, because the EC by herself has closed nominations, because of this event, we would have to, create and allow for some room by way of satisfying the time. So that alone, but still, it's still a contest. Definitely, even if you go unopposed, it is by the voices of those who are supposed to determine and decide who represents them. They would say that it is our clarion call that this person goes uncontested. And so it's all part of the mechanism, but it's all involving people. I don't see it as a tradition, but maybe it's gradually becoming so. But
because people feel that once these women have lost their husbands, then you caught some sympathy votes as compared to somebody new if you field a different candidate. Is that the case?
It's an exercise that comes with strategy. And in a strategy formulation and deployment, you have to certainly go through all the nuances. And at the end of the day, arrive at the best option, plausible. If that is the best plausible action, I don't falter in a person when they embark upon saying, because it's yielded result. At the end of the day, is what you achieve is what you're looking for. And that would it help the people who are pushing for? Is it the people that are pushing for? Give it to the people, because we are doing people representation. So the interest of the people is paramount in the decision-making process. So once it is the voice of the people, and the people are pushing for that, you offer what the people want. That is the essence of exercising our freedoms. And I support the decision to get the wife to represent him. And like George said, in our stewardship, we have our spouses support us. And so they interact. The interface bit is there. It is not new. Certainly, you would have to engage. Once in our part of the world, if you're a rep and you're not married, and you are up to the age of marriage and you're not married, it's a kind of a question mark hanging around you. And once you go about this business, you must be seen to be a responsible adult. And here in Ghana, when they say responsible adult, they expect you to be a married man. And so it's all part of the package to ensure that you have a fitting, fully fledged representative. And that's the way to go about it.
In the run-up to your party's primaries and some of the people who were disqualified, I remember very well one of the requirements was that you need to have nurtured a constituency. So is it the understanding that the wives nurture the constituencies with their husbands in that period? So once the qualification, it becomes automatic? That's
what I'm saying. Invincibly, they are behind their husbands. For all you know, I may not be given evidence, but for all you know, should be the person cooking for the soldiers with the husband. Should be the person managing the back room for the husband. That is part of nurturing. So that's why I said, you look at all the nuances and arrive at a strategic decision. She's not the visible person, but she's the backroom manager. Every person has got a manager. As an MP, I have a manager. Nobody sees my manager because they prepare what we call the feeding bottle. Whatever I have to come and say here, they prepare them for me. And they are the ones who are doing the hardcore work on ground. So they go fish that there, they go fish this here. People know, people who are related to me day to day, know that these are the people who have been in the trenches with him. So when there's an unfortunate situation like this, and they are looking for an immediate person to stand in my stead, in the event of I perish the thoughts, in that event, that should be the situation. And so I think they've taken a decision that because we cannot allow for any other option. For now, let's allow and let's see. And she's also accepted to do that in support of.
You have no idea what the women do, and they kind of some of them work harder than the MPs themselves. Because when their constituents are looking for you, and they don't get you, they will call.
Okay.
Because they believe that he will have their way to get, and through that,
they build relationships.
Abena, sometimes you'll be with your wife, and at early as 1 a.m., you're receiving a call from a constituent. Privacy is broken here. Who best enjoys? You know, I must admit that once you become an elected rep, if your wife had 60% of your time, she's going to get only 20% of your time. At most, at best, is 20%. The best they can have is 10%. Because every now and then you're on the road. Every now and then you're on the road. And you are there seeking for people's interest. That is why sometimes you have to find a way of demonstrating this conversation in this manner. Because the people you are representing are varied and many. And the interest is equally same. That is why I am emboldened as a rep to say that the office demands that you offer them some protection. That is why I have been advocating for all these things. Because if you live in the office and you work in the office, on the face value, yes, you nominated yourself and elected yourself for service, so you have to serve. But in that service, and every person would definitely have a story to tell. But we admitted to run this dispensation. Let us provide for it, and I think it's worth it. But let me say this to my colleagues joining us from Zoom. Aspirants Unite for Victory, I'm one of them. And so I wanted to tell Franklin that I am with the men out there. I think it's a unique opportunity for us to push discourse. There's democracy. You may not have it today, but you may have it another day. And you may have other opportunities elsewhere, which you may necessarily not need to return to where you used to be. It's all about you looking at the global picture and how best to go about it. And the MP's comment, because I may be ending my closing remarks from here. I know.
No, hold on.
Okay,
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Franklin, earlier you hinted at a survey that your team did on the ground in Infantsiman about the popularity of Ophelia Hayford and her chances.
Well, as of yesterday, 4:10 p.m., 1,804 respondents. It is almost 70% of the respondents saying that they wanted the woman. In fact, we started noticing that 3 days ago. Actually, on the very day the NPP decided, we had about 280 people who had said 60% of those people had said they preferred the woman. And across the central region, you saw that as well. Let me go on to make the point. You see, maybe I may be sharing some gory details about the story and related story I read in the Smithsonian magazine, American Smithsonian magazine, about women succeeding their dead husbands in Congress. In fact, the story opens with a para that suggests that, look, it may as well be the only chance for women to aspire to politics in the Congress of the United States. Now, reading the article, the Los Angeles Times, for instance, reported in 1998 that among first-time House candidates between 1960 and 1993, 84% of the widows won, while only 14% of other women were victorious. So it tells you, in fact, it goes on where a political scientist, Diana Kinsard, is quoted, who said, and I quote, statistically, at least for women aspiring to serve in Congress, the best husband has been a dead husband. And on that gory note,
interesting.
I'm not here to propound or propose that men should die a lot more in Ghanaian parliament for women to aspire. I think we should do a whole lot to
nobody wants that.
And I'm not preparing any medicine for women to get into parliament.
We don't want that either.
So, but I'm just saying that statistics speaks, and sometimes But the more important matter in the Smithsonian magazine is the fact that it was rather the only way, or that was how women representation in politics, especially in Parliament, Congress, began. So it's funny, but and as sad as it is, it's also really, really true. I think women obviously have become the better half of their husbands, especially those in politics. And it's indeed true that when you want to reach the man, it's the first way. In fact, we Catholics, if there are any parallels, those who berate us for praying through Mary, we know Mary was not God's husband or Jesus' husband, but Jesus' son. And we go through Mary to intercede for us, our personal sins, as well as the sins of others sitting in your studios. Except Paul and myself, who are Catholics. We are anyway.
Okay, but with this statistic and their winning ability, is this something that should be encouraged?
Well, I think it should be encouraged because women make better leaders. Let me tell you the story. In fact, I remember saying this in 2018 before the president of Switzerland who was a woman, and a number of people, including Steve Forbes and the rest. And she came up to me after the comments and said, "Why do I say that?" I said, "I see it every day, right? You see it in your workplace, you see it in your homes." But they are the more very thoughtful, calm, and collected ones. Women are busybodies and clumsy as well. So I think we should extend that to politics because they can manage their affairs. You seriously think if it's a woman, or we've had women in government, the runaway debt, which is becoming an iceberg, would be seen? I'm sure they have other interesting ways. Look at the world. Look at the women who manage COVID properly. Not even my own favorite Trump comes close, right? The New Zealander, women generally have managed COVID better.
Yeah.
So there's tomes of evidence to show that they are better leaders. And affirmative action actually annoys me because it actually underrates women's ability. I don't think we should affirm anything. We should encourage that everybody should have an opportunity for leadership, really. So, yeah.
All right. Mr. Oppong.
Let me manage again. But from the Smithsonian magazine that Franklin highlighted, there is a conclusion to it that I think is also important. He says, widows' succession used to be the norm. That is in the early 20th century or so.
Yeah.
And it is now quite clearly the exception since war. In those early days, these women's lives and careers were probably incredibly closely intertwined with their husbands. They didn't really have their own careers separate from their husband's political career. So we need to also situate our current situation in the fact that we are now a lot of women who are married to MPs, for example, have their own careers. Some of them are not even supposed to be in politics. But as we are talking about it, I think we need to also find out, which I think it should also be the case, how men who are married to MPs are also faring. I've said that to say that you deny your wife a lot of time. I think you should also highlight that the possibility of a man married to an MP woman also suffering many years of drought or many days of drought in terms of attention should also be highlighted, so that it doesn't mean as if it's only the men MPs whose time are being taken by their wives non-MPs. And that's the point, just to balance the gender equation as it is. And I think it's very important.
You're a chauvinist.
I'm
just joking.
Yeah, I know. And the point I'm making is that, you see, the opinion given was as if it is men MPs who rather are suffering from that drought. But
that was only the honourable member's opinion.
Well, I'm also highlighting the virtues of women MPs as well. That a lot of time when they are men non-MPs
are also being denied because in that case, yes.
Mr. Oppong, do you know any MP's husband who is suffering? Because
yes, I know.
My point is that
yes, I know.
They do the good job. So if the men MPs are suffering, why isn't that the women MP too are not suffering? I'm saying that we have to balance it.
Okay.
And in such a way that it will not be seen as if it is only when a man MP or a man becomes an MP, then the wife may be suffering. The opposite is also that it's also possible that the wife's time, substantial time, may be taken for a parliamentary job to the extent that she may not have sufficient quality time with her family and the husband. That is the point I'm making. Okay. Otherwise, it is a balanced thing, and I think we need to also support all MPs, whether male or female, but ensure that more females rather also get the opportunity to go to parliament, even if it's not affirmative action. There's the various constitutions of the political parties should be fashioned in such a way that where they believe that only a woman is likely, because it shouldn't be as if a woman should be more, if you like, popular if the husband dies. There are certain women in the party who are also very popular without the a reflection of what their husbands do, and those things should reflect in the various constitutions of the political parties, so that the men will not have to vigorously compete with them in a way that will lead to the women losing out. Franklin has said it right. The women usually make better leaders, and we should ensure that as much as possible we get quite a large number of them also being in leadership positions, especially in the political arena.
So you are also for the succession plan and that it should be encouraged among the parties?
If you say it should be encouraged,
it's actually gory. Yeah?
Well, in the unlikely event that the person passes on, someone has to succeed him or her.
Are you asking for a policy document or
no?
There is a conclusion. Women win elections by their own abilities and competence, and not only where they have lost their husband. Even if a woman wants to contest her husband in the same constituency, that should be encouraged. You see the point? So it shouldn't be as if without the husband's work or the death of the husband, a woman cannot win a parliamentary seat in a particular constituency. That will be sending out a wrong signal to the whole world.
Of course.
So when it happens like that, if a woman qualifies to contest, let the woman contest whether she is the husband of a deceased MP or not. She can contest and win in her own right. Mr. Loh has given an example of one of them who subsequently even won against serious contenders like Dr. Pesa White and Co. We should see it in that case, not just because the husband has died, so let's take her. But if she is competent, then the fact that the husband has died shouldn't be one of the equations. She's just competent. She is otherwise not disqualified under the Constitution or any other relevant law, and that she should be voted for on that basis alone. And the idea, as the Smithsonian magazine said, that usually they were brought in just for the convenience sake, and subsequently they are removed by some means. That shouldn't be the case. They should not be for convenience only. But if they are competent, then they should compete fairly in the next election or campaign so that they can win. But otherwise, special dispensations should be offered to women in constituencies where we believe they will, because some of us would like to vote for women other than men. But we are not giving the options. You have only men in a particular constituency when you would have wished that the woman should be one of them, so you vote for that woman even if she will not win, so that you send a signal.
All right, but in such a case, the Mfantsiman MP contested in the primaries which the MPP organized, and he won. What happens to the other people who also have interest in being on that seat in Parliament for the constituency?
Well, that's a good point, but I believe that...
Okay, Mr. Oppong, go first.
before the decision to prefer the woman is taken, I believe that there should have been a broad-based consultation, especially with those who lost the competition. Otherwise, there may be some of them may become disgruntled, and some sort of despondency may set in. And so it's important that, and I believe that may have been done in this case as well, that those who competed or who did not, but have always nursed the intention to, or the desire to go to Parliament in that constituency, may have been spoken to. All the assurances that are legal and lawful may have been given them, and they have perfectly understood it, and perhaps also pledged to fully and openly support the lady to win the election. Otherwise, that in itself will amount to solving one problem only to replace it with a more serious problem.
Okay, Franklin, I'd like to find out from you how the other candidates fared in the survey, but I'll do that right after this quick break. Don't go away.
Play the golden goal on Bet Planet today with just 20 Ghana cedis. You could win a Mercedes and 100,000 Ghana cedi worth of prizes. This advert has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below the age of 8.
What's poppin'? Brand new dramas. That's what. Ethan Hawke leads a group of freedom fighters in the daring battle to end slavery in Mnet's brand new historical miniseries. We're gonna start a revolution. And the rebellious daughter must step up and take the reins of her late father's criminal enterprise in Africa Magic's brand new local series.
What do I do?
What else is poppin'? Brand new pop-up channels. That's what's poppin'. We're serving up family dramas and intrigue galore in The Beloved Man on the new telenovelas channel.
Citizens, we cannot allow this situation to go on.
We're packing a punch with the kung fu adventures of the Chinese Odyssey on the brand new Kicks channel. And we're going crazy over arts and crafts with Cooksy on the new Zumu channel. So pop on over to DSTV for the best of brand new this month.
You're welcome back to The Big Issue on City TV. Of course, if you are watching us on our Facebook page as well, we are glad you are doing that. Franklin, so I was asking you about the other competitors in the primaries, and per the survey that your team did, what were their chances?
Well, let's not forget the banker who had tested the slain MP decided to join him to campaign. So he did have the same situation as the other places where there are bonfires all over the place.
Okay.
So even though this had happened and the question was posed, as I said, so far close to 65%. I mean, the data is still trickling in. Clearly were in favor of the woman. Now, you may want to say maybe sympathy votes per se, but as your opponent suggested, I think she's capable. Don't forget, I think she's a CID.
Yeah, she's a police officer.
Police officer. So, clearly speaking, she's got her marbles properly screwed. So I think, clearly speaking, she's the favorite. But the more important point is that even the closest to the candidate who won was the banker who, even prior to his death, had started supporting him anyway. So the data has spoken, and I think the party's position also is reconciled with the data. Really, that's what I see.
Okay. Honorable Loh, so people are talking about competencies. You said that these women play a key role in the campaign you do, your work in Parliament. But should we look at the work they do and not the competency, just because they are familiar with the people, just because people know them and want them to contest, as compared to other people who may have also vied for that same position within the party?
Well, like I keep saying, it's about several factors. There's no single factor that will get anybody to Parliament. I think that the people have a duty to look at the overall, or make an overall assessment of the person who they want to step in. Do not forget that, like I keep saying, you see, this was a gentleman who had his own persona. Okay? The reason why he was voted for again as against the other person who lost the primaries.
Yeah.
In some cases, you would find that his disposition would invariably be, unless in a few cases, the disposition of the wife. People begin to, like I keep saying, there are things that sometimes Honorable will be leaving for Accra. The wife is back. Party members would come for some money to do certain things. She's the one who gives it out, you know. So at a certain point, she seemed to be carved in a mold of the late husband for many people. And I'm not surprised about the money.
The survey.
Yeah, survey. Yeah, and of course, you know, this is a unique situation. If it were a general election where the woman were going in her own right, it's another matter altogether. Then people would have a duty to make other assessments. For now, even the fact that they believe that there are kids to be looked after, and then there is some security that needed to be given to the woman, then the position will come with some financial reward to look after and compensate. All these things are taken in. That is where the sympathy votes come in. You understand? Where somebody says, oh, now that the man is gone, who is going to help her look after the children? So I think that if she goes, she would have resources to be able to look after the children. And for most people, it's a very important factor. So there are several factors that will be looked after. Competence would come in possibly as one of the last factors. It doesn't start from that point.
Okay.
The analysis that people will make would not start from the fact that, oh, is she a doctor too, or is she...
the voters or the party?
The people in the party are also voters. And the constituency executives, they are the political stakeholders on the ground. The polling station executives, they are the people who... Kingmakers. First-hand work with the party. That is how come that the women would have more affinity in getting the slot, because you cannot be an MP's wife who is supportive of your husband and not meet your polling station executives and when there's something to be shared. So like I keep saying, let's assume that Christmas MP is giving out rice. Chances are that even though she's not the one who is going to distribute, she may be at home when people come for beers and they will get to talk, and there's a belief that she possibly supported the husband to give out. There's a lot of factors out there. A lot and a lot of factors out there.
You want more of these to happen?
Well, I mean, of course. I mean,
in the unlikely events that somebody passes on, the wife should be made to contest.
Well, that decision will be made, because you see, I mean, let's also not run away from one fact. There are some of the MPs' wives where people don't want to see. It's a possibility. Sure. There are some of the MPs' wives that people don't want to see.
Sure. Why?
Yeah, because you are never there. When they come and they are asking Honorable for school fees, you squeeze your face. They will tell who call crab. I mean, so it depends on how you handle yourself.
Okay.
Like I keep saying, when Seriam Alassa was named, I was like, hey. But when you talk to the students on campus and people will say, oh, she comes around, and apparently the husband used her because she was of Ebe background, to go and talk to the Ebes in the community. So she was already playing a certain role. And I won't be surprised if Honorable's wife plays a certain role. You understand? So there are different. In fact, if I touch with it, but if I had lost my life when I was MP, I don't think that my wife could have stepped in it because she was outside doing her PhD. So she's not somebody who was known by the party members per se. Coupled with the fact that she doesn't come from my area. But this thing, if the woman comes from the constituency and she's a daughter of the place, she's known, she has a lot of advantages. She will take advantage of it. But there will be times when no amount of thing you do would make people want your wife to step in your stead.
All right, Honorable Ampadu. And then you add your final comments too.
I think I've heard all that argument that I've been made. And fortunately, and unfortunately, we found a replacement for Honorable Eko Kwanza Hayford. And that should be it. I don't want to discuss this matter. He was on my committee. We were very close. We shared a lot. And so I just have to. There wasn't, at least every other day I would hear from him. If he didn't call me daily, he would let me hear from him every other day. So the least of conversations I would want to hold on this matter. Let me take this opportunity to also state that, unfortunately, news reaching us that our candidate for Yape Kusogu constituency is also been lost, and I wish to express my deepest condolences to the bereaved family and the immediate family and the constituency at large. These are trying moments for our political tradition. That notwithstanding, there's work to be done and we have to do the work. I also want to thank my brother Nanaya Akwada of the Public Safety Bureau, who later did I know that my
the envelope.
So no, it's not necessarily the envelope, but I encouraged them because, you know, at the time I came to realize that we needed people like them to put security as part of the front burner in conversations. I mean, that's our daily thing we have to all get to do. But my colleague Esiama, when the matter is heightened, unfortunately now we are in the same caucus, but once these effects happen, he can't attend our caucus meetings. The whip is withdrawn from you. It means that already in the constituency he's not with the constituents. And Speaker, it's unfortunate we have to come this far, but let's still test the constitution. For me, these are my takes, and I want to thank my people from Mprazo who offered me the opportunity to serve them 3 terms in Parliament of my life. One of my terms in the 6th Parliament, I served with George Loh here.
But you're taking all the time. Franklin and Mr. Oppong will not be happy.
No, they are my brothers, and I always enjoy their
Franklin, are you there?
And intelligent.
I'm here.
Okay, just a quick one. The unfortunate passing of the candidate for Yape Kuso.
Go.
If his wife is interested, should he be made to continue? Not to belabor the point, but this is the conversation we are having, and
someone just
it has happened. Yes, the MPP's candidate for Yape Kusogu.
Oh, I saw in the road crash.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it depends if the wife is her electability is also.
If he's interested.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
We still rest in peace.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure hosting you on the big issue. The Honorable Seth Champong, MP from Prior, so Honorable George Loh, former MP for North Dai. Yaw Oppong is a private legal practitioner. Franklin Kujo, President of Imani Africa. We're also joined by Nanaya Akwada on Zoom. He's the Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety. My name is Abena Nyamekye Ampadu. On behalf of the team, we say thank you for watching and for listening to The Big Issue. Goodbye.